Greetings. I'm Don Squire, retired school teacher turned musical instrument maker. You might say that the 38 years I spent teaching served as a very useful apprenticeship to designing a xylophone that teachers really want. A statement I think you'll probably agree with by the time you've seen and heard the instruments I have. Is a bass instrument, playing an octave lower than the usual diatonics. But most people in schools are interested in the diatonic alto instrument, this one. I'd had a lot of pleasure myself using xylophones in schools. The ones I'd used, though, were twice as high as mine, longer, twice as heavy, and I wouldn't have a hope of lifting one in one hand. The shape you'll be familiar with, this sort of shape. Now let's check on one or two of those things that I've said so far. Twice as high. Well, yes, we can see that. And if I can carry it in one hand, it must be reasonably light. In fact, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter who thinks no trouble to take one of these about. Here she is, Helen. Normally, though, you'd carry it in 2 hands, as Helen does. Of course, can be changed. Lift and slide out. And let's see if they make any sort of sound. No music there at all, until they're supported at the nodal points 2/9 of the way from the end. Not really strong enough to be interesting musically. It needs amplifying. And so we amplify it without plugging into the mains or using batteries. All done by science, because underneath each tone bar are resonating chambers, 4 of them. Each of those chambers tuned to assist the tone bars sitting above them as much as possible. The opposition instruments will do exactly the same if you puff them, and they will help those tone bars ring, just as mine do. Evidently, those manufacturers have never seen a guitar or a violin and noticed that these instruments have a top, as well as sides, ends and bottom. And the top is there not merely to support the strings. It encloses the airspace and makes the box much more efficient as far as sound is concerned. So I have enclosed the airspace on my resonating chambers instead of having the tone bars sitting on the sides of the box without a top. In the opposition instrument, to get middle C to ring properly, after it's been hit, they find that their lowest compartment needs to be big enough to contain 4.5 litres of air. Because I've been a little more cunning and put a top on that resonating chamber, I need only 2.5 litres, and consequently I don't have to have a deep compartment, shallower, 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 and then a peg leg at the end. It's flat, as you will have noticed when I tipped it up in the bottom. Will sit anywhere, on your knee or a child's knee as well, if that's convenient. C major isn't the key we always want to use. So there are some sharps and flats attached to the instrument, as the beaters are, and to change these, lift and slide out. Help yourself to the F sharp if you're wanting to play in the key of G, or the B flat if you're wanting to play in the key of F, and of course there's another F sharp to replace the upper F. Now, there are teaching points about that, and the label on the instrument explains how to lift, slide out the tone bars, how the sharps and flats are stored, tuning hollow up, longest one here, easiest to reach, how to plug the beaters into the hole, push them on the clip. The other beater you've already had a good view of while I was demonstrating. Now, as long as your children have learnt that, then the instrument will always be complete when it goes from room to room. And you won't be having to send to the teacher who used it yesterday to find out where those F sharps are, or the beaters. Complete when you pick it up and move it. Another problem teachers have had in bygone years are tuned percussion instruments whose separating and locating pins work loose, bend, break, or fall out. These, on my instruments, are made of a very tough alloy, silicon bronze, and these have very cunningly shaped annular grooves, and they work like fishhook barbs. Once they've been driven into the wood, they hang on very tight and are exceedingly difficult to pull out. I've also imported 2 grandchildren from Scotland, Tabea and Christian Squire, to help me.
Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Brother John, morning bells are ringing, morning bells are ringing,
I wonder if you heard what Christian was playing when he went out of sight. Speakers on TV sets are good for reproducing TV programs and speech, but when it comes to low music notes, sometimes they're not so good. And Christian was playing some very low music notes from the XyloPerc contrabass range. They play an octave below the bass xylophones, 2 octaves below alto. So we'll have a look and leave him in view this time while Christian and Tabea play again.
Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Brother John, morning bells are ringing, morning bells are ringing,
One advantage of the contrabass bars is that they can be played by anybody, 2, 3, 7-year-olds. They often do go into preschool tuition places and in the junior school. Several intermediate schools have bought complete sets of them. And I've heard some heads of music departments in secondary schools say we could use these instead of timpani. The range of the XyloPerc contrabass bars starts just below where the bass instruments stop. They finish at C, an octave below middle C. Contrabass starts at B, semitone below. Most other manufacturers limit their range to the C further down still, but the XyloPerc contrabasses go down another half octave. The difference in appearance is quite plain, but the important thing, of course, is the difference in sound. So we'll give them a test. And if you didn't hear any difference in sound, it won't be the fault of your TV speaker. Now, what about carrying them? They do have to be shifted occasionally, and I'm going to ask Tabea and Christian to see how they get on. Here is my bass XyloPerc in Tabea's strong arms. Now, Christian is a little more muscular with soccer and tennis and things, How do you get on holding Mr. Karloff's design? Well, I have seen that sort of thing happen before, or even worse. So, by now, you'll be quite sure in your mind, with no doubt whatever, as to what sort of tuned percussion instruments you are going to ask for next time you need some. So, it's time to say goodbye, or is it goodbying?
Goodbye.